hopefully this is a portent for things to come here. I would love it if we could just make our way through the entirety of vaults without too much of a care in the world. But I want to be at least kind of keeping thought in the background, keeping cognizant of the fact that things can very, very quickly start cascading in rough fashion. As long as we have that kind of rolling around the back of our brains, I don't see how we could possibly fail here. And it's funny because I say all that thinking about it and keeping it on the forefront of our brains largely as an attempt at an anti-hubris method, and then immediately follow it up by saying, oh, it's impossible for us to lose as long as we follow these one simple instruction, or this. But that's how the game gets you, of course. DCSS always known to take anything that you are thinking is for granted and making sure to shove that in our faces. And I was slightly concerned there that if we actually killed the stone giant with an IMB, then our buddy's Orb of Destruction would have a one-way ticket straight to yours truly. But fortunately, no friendly fire yet. It's pretty much an inevitability that at some point, at some stage, it will indeed come to pass, but at least for this frozen moment in time, we're doing okay for ourselves. Love to get that replacement blinking scroll. Of course, by replacement, we mean replacing the one that we unfortunately kind of had to waste earlier, seeing as how we were woefully unprepared for the encounter to go in a less than ideal fashion. That should be most of vaults too. Again, things going just dangerously smoothly here. Which I hate to say in a complaining fashion, because at the end of the day, good problem to have. Oh, I think our Orbs of Destruction had a little bit of a crossing of the streams there. You know what? Vault Warden, come this way. I'm not gonna stick around to find out. Instead, let's just reset, head to another section of the floor here, play it a wee bit on the safe side for the moment. So our servitor immediately fires off multiple destruction orbs directly into the steel wall in front of them. Great work, kiddo. Keep it up. Ooh, yikes. Definitely would prefer not to say hello to this welcoming party. There is another artifact falchion there that I'm curious about. It's piqued my interest at the very least, but likely not going to be too much of a factor in our success moving forward, so I'd say probably just leave it by the wayside for now. The Spellforge Servitor strats go much better against Yaktar than the aforementioned Centaurs, of course, just because we can kind of freely walk away to our heart's content, and we're not going to be taking hits while we attempt to do so. That is beautiful. Oh, the great power of just walking away. And come on, Bessie. There we go. Fantastic. Getting a wee bit cocky at the end there. Okay, 16% chance to affect us with Sentinel's Mark. I want to see a spreadsheet of how many times they've attempted it and how many times have succeeded, because I feel like we're failing that 16% chance a hell of a lot more often than we might otherwise expect to. Should definitely head right back to our stairwell just in case that good old Markethus here does cause us any troubles. And Shapeshifter Skeleton, bit of an odd one to see for sure. Right, and I should, as we've mentioned in the past, reach out and grab ya. remembering that we have these at our disposal seems like it will probably be for the best here. Ooh, and you know what? Formless jellyfish can constrict us. Good to note. That is definitely something that we don't want to find ourselves on the wrong side of, and in fact that could have gone much more horribly if we'd been slightly unluckier with our attempts to go back up the stairwell, but better to be lucky than good, as we've always said, so no problem whatsoever. Of course, never didn't have it. Up to 18 skill level now with the spell casting. It's not bad, not too shabby, to say the least. But let's take a step back from our problems here. Probably should actually take care of whatever the heck we left behind. But nah, we'll be fine. Why worry about it when we can instead just have absurd levels of overconfidence thanks to our one and only spell-forged friend. Beautiful. There's yet another Peacekeeper. In fact, I just kind of realized this floor we've had a couple of Crystal Guardians. I was actually going to call it Crystal Golems, so glad that kill feed came up just in time to correct me. But up on the previous floor, we actually saw one of our, what are they? They're not called Sentinels. Right, Peacekeeper, we were just looking at this. We saw a Peacekeeper without a friend. Here I thought that those Sun's Guns usually came in bunches. And there we go, we do see the failure on the attempt to mark us there. Of course, a big part about my complaints earlier about the odds not being ever in our favor probably can be settled down or nailed down to the idea that we have a lot of confirmation bias going into it, because I barely notice whatsoever when a failed message comes through, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I will take notice when the mark does hit, as we immediately start going into just a smidge of panic, just the slightest bit. Oof. And failure to get our friend off the ground there is not ideal. I can probably just start walking away. None of these Sun's Guns are ranged, and this does give us a nice opportunity to also replenish a lot of our missing health until we have enough of a runway here to bring in this servitor, even getting a little bit ambushed from the other side. Jeez Louise. But again, enough space to probably phone you in, my friend, and while we're at it, let's start a little bit of a minefield, shall we? In fact, that should take care of a lot of our problems for us, and that is beautiful. Who needs a Spellforged Servitor when we can at least take care of some amount of difficulty on our own? So that's fantastic. And okay, this time around I decided very quickly, let's not worry about electricity resistance. Definitely argue I came to regret that choice. Whoopsie daisies. So let's be a little more cautious, shall we? In fact, I would probably like to have the Falchion on A and this son of a gun on B, because that at least makes it nice and quick to swap between the two, at least for the remaining time that we spend here in vaults. Might as well come prepared. And that's actually something we very much need to, and will hopefully be able to address before we get to Zot, which we're of course hoping to see later in this very evening. Unless something truly unexpected comes our way, I don't see how we could spend too much longer than our available time today to get to that stage in the game. But of course, I say nothing expected happens here, fully aware that we have no idea what the new slime looks like, and so we very well could see that eventuality come to pass. But hey, that is a problem for future Torinski. And otherwise, for the time being, can just have a wee bit of blind faith that everything will work out wonderfully. That sense of naive optimism, as I've come to call it on my end. Something that comes up fairly often because I feel like it's a trait that is very shared between the majority of my family members. Things will always just work out because you believe it will. You manifest the positive outcomes into existence, and then how could anything possibly prove otherwise? Which, you know, I say in a kind of glib fashion, but at the end of the day, I do actually also have a lot of appreciation for that mentality because it does lead you to a lot of great experiences. It's definitely part and parcel of a desire to be willing to try anything, or not a desire, but rather a willingness to try new things, because it'll probably go well. So why not? You can go white river rafting or climb this mountain or what have you. But with that, we're looking to slowly but surely be making progress towards finishing off vaults here. Fantastic. Do love these little heart chambers. Always a welcome sight. Gives us some semblance of hope when this dungeon can otherwise be a dark and full of terrors. It is dark and full of terrors. Which, you know, actually, as I started to say, in my head that was a Darkest Dungeon quote, but I very quickly realized it's not. That's Game of Thrones, I think. Funny how quickly my brain can make these completely incorrect connections. And okie dokie. Oh, there is a door in here. Interesting. That actually makes me a little more willing to try it out. I mean, a potion of curing, well, not really necessary. We have 10 just sitting around in our backpack with very little use so far. It is experience, I guess. Again, I'm just trying to think to myself, is there any reason why I should not do this? And there almost definitely are some. But, again, we can instead just blindly stumble our way forward with this naive optimism. Oof. So we almost get a little bit of friendly fire there. Let's be cautious there, my spell-forged friend. And the +7 falchion, Zed, very illustriously named, does replace the intelligence that we gain from our current one, but not the cold resistance. So probably have to leave that by the wayside. Does not end up being too worth our time to come into this lovely little chamber, but that is fine. Okie dokie, let us finish things off here. Right, this is where some of our willpower is going for. Does have drain on it too, so if and when we do end up swapping out this armor, we do have to keep in mind that we'll be slightly weaker for the next wee bit. The fire resistance at least is largely, I guess, taken back on if we did switch over to this robe, and I'm largely just mulling this over because a robe of resistance is a lovely thing when we're constantly going back and forth on the cold resistance side of things. If I just didn't have to switch over to a ring, or could safely use our electricity resistance staff a little more predominantly, does seem like it would likely be advantageous. Maybe I'll carry this thing around for a wee bit here. And you know what, let's shout, let it all out. These are the things we live without? Is that actually the lyrics? It's one of those songs that I feel like I could make up a large chunk of without even realizing I'm doing so. But let's see, can I somehow hit both of you with my grabbing arms? Does not seem to be the case. But hey, that still gets the job done here. Spellforge Servitor, come back to my side, my friend. And should be a fairly simple process, or at least a straightforward one, to deal with the rest of our ugly thing friends there. That is fantastic. Okie dokie, I guess we're definitely making a theme of this whole completely demolish any room that we enter. Big ups to, of course, Orb of Destruction for causing us to consistently and constantly make a mess here today. And harmless jellyfish, no real problem. Okie dokie, let us hopefully just blitz our way through the rest of this. Okay, plus 1 pair of gloves, not better than our current setup here. And go gadget, Spellforge Servitor, I believe in you, buddy. Keep it up. You're doing great out there, kiddo. Ooh, okay. This is where I actually stop attacking, I feel, just because I want to make sure that I don't accidentally murder the elephants and find ourselves in a less than ideal situation. But okay, reach out and grab all of you gives us that much needed wiggle room, and then again we'll kind of focus in on our distortion branded friend there, and that is wonderful. Again, kind of playing it a little riskier than I otherwise should, pushing enemies almost outside of the path of the orbs coming their way. At the very least, if the worst were to come to pass there, we can sleep easily knowing that it was not the ultimate betrayal. The top 10 anime betrayals from our Spellforged friend here, and instead would have been largely our own fault. So, you know, silver linings and all of that. Let us just walk away from our problems once more. Does make life nice and easy when we have the Vile Clutch in order to slow enemies down just enough to give us the wiggle room we need, and can otherwise just kind of walk away from life's problems, not a care in the world. You do just love to see it. Okie dokie. Well. And we find ourselves in that sweet spot of being very likely to struggle with the commentary side of things for a lot of this run, just because it's a whole lot of, yeah, we do the thing and it works out beautifully, which, again, I'm not complaining whatsoever. Much better than the alternative at the end of the day here. Ooh, a Phantom Mirror, I should take that. And you know, I think I remember saying something along this similar lines to that the last stream that we had when we were starting out this run. Immediately afterwards, I was thinking to myself that I could talk about random things in life, and that is indeed what streamers generally do. But for whatever reason, it's a pretty 50-50 split whether I have the presence of mind to even remember what the heck I did, I mean, in this last week, much less anything beyond that. Especially since generally by the time we get to a Sunday, I am just in a headspace of this is my time to kind of relax and not think about stuff too much after these very busy weeks. Finally pass on by as time does and continues to do. Ouch. Well, let's get a bit more experienced while walking away from life's problems. If only we could do that in real life too. Oh me, oh my. But in all seriousness, still going nice and smoothly, and this will be the last floor of vaults that we worry about for the time being here, and likely throughout the entirety of the run. So do love to see it. Okay, I was being mindful of that situation just because things, I feel, could have very quickly cascaded to something terrible. Shout for some attention here, and hopefully the Frostheart comes. I don't really want to be caught up in this kind of corridor fest against this son of a gun right here, of course. Doesn't seem like the game is going to be especially forgiving in that regard, though, so why hello there. Ooh, and already forgetting to swap over to the electricity resistance that we're lugging around. Fortunately, doesn't end up being the worst thing that could possibly happen. I guess that is the beauty of having enough offensive power that we don't have to worry constantly about the defense side of things. The best defense is a proclivity to murder everything at first blush, so that is beautiful. Ooh, even as I make some foolish decisions at the end of that encounter, walking directly towards the full wall instead of staying out in the open, so yikes. Fortunately, we're never punished, and hopefully that trend continues onwards as we continue downwards. Wouldn't that be nice? And that is fantastic. That should basically be it. In fact, there it is, the end of vaults for our current intents and purposes. And so it's likely to be, I guess, down to depths next. Can clear depths, and then we'll start eyeing up that slime, seeing how we feel about that side of things.